The stars were silent, cold, endless. For countless years, the Zorani people had believed that silence meant safety. No enemies, no wars, no chaos. But silence also meant loneliness. When the great disaster came upon them, silence became their greatest fear. The Zorani homeworld was dying. Their skies were torn by storms, their seas poisoned by weapons of war. Old rivals had struck them down, and the last survivors had only one chance left: call for help. From the central city, the elders gathered in a crumbling chamber. The last beacon of their race stood in the middle of the hall. It was old, so old that it had not been used for thousands of years. It was a distress signal, a cry across the stars. The elders activated it, sending a simple message into the black void. To any who can hear us, we beg for aid. We are dying. Please, help. The beacon carried the message across galaxies, searching for kind ears, for noble hearts. The Zorani believed their ancient allies, far away in the Orion Arm, would answer. They prayed for a gentle hand, a savior species to lift them from the edge of extinction. But space has strange ways. Signals do not always travel where we want them to. The SOS skipped across cosmic paths, bounced through black holes and radio storms. And then, against all odds, it reached a small blue planet circling a yellow sun. That planet was Earth. When the message hit Earth, it did not arrive with trumpets or banners. It was faint, almost broken, like a whisper through static. But the right ears caught it. Scientists, military stations, deep space listeners. Within hours, the signal was decoded. It was not human. Governments met in secret. Leaders whispered in secure chambers. Who had called us? Why now? Was this a trap, or an opportunity? The debate raged, but one truth cut through the noise. This was first contact. Humanity had always wondered if it was alone. Now the answer was clear. Someone out there needed help. Someone far away was desperate enough to beg. But what kind of help would humanity give? That was the real question. The first human response was not kindness. It was caution. The signal was studied again and again. Analysts looked for hidden codes, for threats, for lies. None were found. Yet even then, the decision was not mercy, it was strategy. The leaders of Earth did not say, "Let us save them." They said, "Let us see what they can give us." Ships were prepared in silence. Not bright white ships of peace, but dark, armored vessels meant for control. Soldiers, scientists, and shadowed commanders filled their halls. Humanity was not coming with open arms. Humanity was coming with watchful eyes. Meanwhile, on the dying Zorani world, hope grew. The elders believed salvation was near. Strange lights appeared in their sky one night, metal shapes cutting across the heavens. The aliens dropped from the clouds, landing with precision in the ruined plains. The Zorani gathered, trembling with joy. They sang in their broken voices. They fell to their knees in gratitude. They thought the saviors had arrived. But when the humans stepped out, there were no smiles. No words of comfort. Only silence. Cold helmets. Dark visors that hid human eyes. Machines that scanned everything in their path. The humans did not kneel. They did not greet. They simply looked. Observed. Measured. To the Zorani, this silence was unsettling. Why did their rescuers not speak? Why did their rescuers not share warmth? An elder stepped forward, bowing deeply. His voice shook as he said, "We are saved. Thank you, great ones." But the humans gave no reply. They only walked past him, their boots pressing into the ash of a dying world. Whispers spread among the aliens. Why are they so quiet? Why do they look at us like hunters studying prey? The humans set up small machines. Strange drones crawled across the ground, cutting into old Zorani machines, pulling them apart piece by piece. Within hours, the humans had learned more about the Zorani than the Zorani had learned about them. And then, for the first time, a human spoke. The voice came through a translator, sharp and cold. Who else heard your signal? The Zorani elders froze. That was not the question of a savior. That was the question of a predator. The Zorani had hoped for warmth. They had hoped for safety. Instead, they felt fear creep into their bones. These humans, they were not like the stories of noble allies. They were something different. Something dangerous. The children of the stars had summoned a power they did not understand. And as the humans built their first camp on alien soil, silence spread once again. But this time, it was not the silence of loneliness. It was the silence of something far worse. The Zorani looked at each other with wide, terrified eyes. One whispered to another, so quiet that no human could hear. These are not the saviors. These are predators. The Zorani had expected saviors. Instead, they saw shadows. The first night after the humans arrived, the aliens waited outside their ruined temples. Fires burned in the distance, smoke curled against the sky. The people gathered with trembling hope, watching the strange visitors build their camp. The humans moved like machines. They did not speak to one another loudly. They used gestures, short words, strange signals in their helmets. Their machines unfolded with perfect precision, walls rising, drones scanning, weapons standing ready. In only a few hours, the barren land had turned into a fortress. The Zorani whispered among themselves. They are builders. They are protectors. But beneath the hope was unease. Protectors usually smiled. Protectors usually comforted. These humans did neither. At dawn, the Zorani elders gathered the courage to approach. The oldest of them, with skin pale from sickness, stepped forward carrying a bowl of their last fruit, a symbol of gratitude. He placed it before the tall humans. Please, the elder said, his voice trembling, accept this gift. It is all we have left. We welcome you as our saviors. For a long moment, nothing happened. The humans stood still, silent behind their visors. Then one of them raised a hand, not to take the gift, but to scan it. A light passed over the bowl, reading, measuring, calculating. The fruit was left untouched. The elder lowered his head. His hands shook. This was not the welcome he had dreamed of. Later, a human commander finally spoke. His voice echoed through a strange machine, translated into rough alien words. Who else heard your signal? The aliens stared at him. The question was sharp, cold, and carried no kindness. The elder answered carefully. No others. We called to the stars. Only you came. The commander turned away without another word. His soldiers followed. The Zorani looked at each other in silence. Something was wrong. The humans continued their work. They sent drones into the alien cities. They studied buildings, machines, even the sick and wounded. The Zorani thought the humans might be preparing to heal them, to share medicine. But instead, the humans only recorded, dissected, and stored information. One child, too curious for his own good, followed a drone through the ruins. He watched as it dismantled an ancient generator with tiny arms, tearing it apart faster than any craftsman could. Within minutes, the machine was gone, its pieces absorbed into a human container. The boy gasped. To him, it looked as if the humans were feeding on his people's past. That night, the humans called the elders again. This time, they showed their power. The commander placed a small device on the ground. With a low hum, the device expanded into a swarm of tiny drones. They moved like a living wave, crawling across the broken floor, disassembling metal walls, stripping weapons, devouring everything in their path. Within moments, what had been a defensive bunker was reduced to dust. The commander's voice came again, sharp and cold. We will protect you. But all defenses are ours now. The Zorani froze in horror. Protectors did not steal defenses. Protectors did not strip their allies of weapons. Yet the humans did it without hesitation. Fear began to grow. The Zorani children clung to their parents. The elders whispered among themselves. Some argued that perhaps this was simply the human way. Strange, yes, but maybe they meant no harm. Others shook their heads. They saw the truth in the human eyes, eyes that studied not with compassion, but with calculation. The youngest elder spoke quietly. They are not here for us. They are here for something else. The next day, the humans asked more questions. Not about the sickness. Not about the poisoned lands. Not about how to save lives. Instead, they demanded, where are your resource vaults? Where is your ancient technology? Show us your archives. The Zorani hesitated. The vaults held sacred knowledge, the last legacy of their ancestors. To give them away felt like death. But the humans waited in silence, their weapons glowing faintly in the dark. The elders knew they had no choice. One by one, the vaults were opened. Humans walked through them like silent kings, their machines recording everything. They touched nothing with their hands, yet nothing escaped their gaze. Every book, every crystal, every fragment of history was taken into their endless databanks. The Zorani felt themselves grow smaller, weaker, helpless. That night, when the humans finally left the vaults, the aliens gathered in a hidden chamber. The eldest among them whispered, "We thought we summoned saviors. But what if we have summoned our end?" The room fell silent. Only the sound of distant human machines filled the air. The next morning brought no peace. Human ships descended from the sky, black shadows blotting out the sun. More soldiers, more machines, more power. The Zorani felt their world slipping from their hands. The children asked their parents, "Are they here to save us?" The parents could not answer. For the first time, they felt shame in their hearts. They had called for help, and perhaps they had called the wrong species. The humans had made their first contact. But to the Zorani, it did not feel like rescue. It felt like the first step into something far darker. And in the silence of the alien night, one thought haunted them all. If these are saviors, what would their enemies be like? The Zorani had thought first contact was strange. But what came after was far worse. The humans did not leave. They spread. Across the ruined plains, their machines marched. Camps turned into bases, and bases turned into strongholds. Roads of metal stretched from one ruined city to another, linking everything under human control. What was once Zorani land now felt like an outpost of Earth. The aliens watched in silence. Some prayed the humans were building protection. Others whispered the truth, they were building ownership. The first signs of domination were small. The humans demanded resources, fuel, minerals, food. The Zorani gave what little they had, hoping to buy safety. But it was never enough. More requests came. More demands followed. One elder finally asked, "Why do you take what we need to survive? Is this your way of saving us?" The human commander gave a simple reply through the translator. "You called. We came. You survive now on our terms." The words fell heavy on the chamber. The Zorani realized in that moment, they were not partners. They were subjects. Soon, the humans began redirecting rivers with their machines. They claimed fertile land for their bases. Entire families were forced to move. The Zorani protested, but the soldiers stood like stone, weapons glowing, eyes cold behind their visors. The humans never raised their voices. They never shouted. They did not need to. Their quiet discipline was more terrifying than rage. One whisper spread among the alien people. They do not rule with anger. They rule with silence. The scientists among the Zorani tried to understand. Why were these humans so different from the saviors they had dreamed of? The answer came slowly, in patterns too clear to ignore. The humans were not only rescuing them from extinction. They were studying them. Every action, every tool, every scrap of alien knowledge was taken apart, recorded, and used. The Zorani were no longer a people. They had become a resource. Then came the breaking point. One night, in a hidden meeting, the elders begged the humans to stop dismantling their sacred vaults. The vaults were not weapons, but history, songs, records, memories of their people. Please, the eldest said, leave us something of our past. Without it, we are nothing. The human commander listened in silence. Then he gave an order. His soldiers activated their drones, and within hours, the vault was stripped bare. The elders wept. Their past was gone. Their future was no longer theirs. Among the younger Zorani, anger began to rise. They whispered of rebellion. They spoke of taking back what was stolen. But the humans seemed to sense it before it even began. One morning, entire groups of Zorani youth were gathered and separated. The humans called it relocation for protection. But the truth was clear. It was control. Families cried as children were taken to camps, kept under human watch. The aliens had asked for help. Instead, they were now prisoners in their own world. And still, the humans did not act cruel for the sake of cruelty. They never mocked. They never shouted. They simply did what was necessary in their eyes. To them, the Zorani were not victims or allies. They were variables in a larger equation. One alien mother whispered through her tears. They do not hate us. They do not love us. To them, we are nothing. That was the most terrifying truth of all. Rumors spread quickly across neighboring colonies. Other alien races began to hear whispers of the humans, the new species that had answered a dying world's cry. The stories were always the same: quiet, efficient, unstoppable. One trader who escaped told it simply. They came as helpers. They stayed as rulers. They will not leave. In the middle of the human camp, one Zorani child discovered something even worse. Sneaking through the shadows, he found a tent filled with glowing screens. Human symbols scrolled endlessly across them, showing maps not only of Zorani lands but of distant stars, other systems. At the center of the display was a message, simple but chilling. Expansion confirmed. Local resources secured. Step 1 complete. The child's heart raced. The humans had not come only to rescue. They had come to expand. Their presence on this world was not the end, it was the beginning. The child told the elders what he had seen. Fear spread like wildfire. Some begged to flee. Some begged to fight. But the humans were everywhere, their ships circling above, their machines burrowing into the ground. Resistance felt impossible. Still, one thought united the Zorani. They had called the wrong species. One night, an elder spoke to the people in secret. We sent a cry for help. We thought we summoned saviors. But look at what we have brought. Look at their eyes. Look at their silence. These are not angels of mercy. These are architects of conquest. His words shook every heart. For the first time, the Zorani saw the full picture. Humanity was not their answer. Humanity was their new storm. Above the dying world, human fleets continued to arrive, larger and larger each day. The sky itself seemed to belong to them now. The Zorani looked upward, their voices breaking, their hope gone. They had not been saved. They had been claimed. The Zorani once prayed for saviors. Now, they prayed simply to survive. Above their world, the skies burned with light. Human fleets had arrived in full force. Vast carriers, warships, endless machines drifting like predators in the void. To the Zorani, it looked like a second sun had risen, but this sun carried no warmth. Only power. From orbit, the humans mapped every mountain, every ocean, every city. Nothing was hidden. Nothing was safe. The Zorani realized their entire world now lived under human eyes. At first, the aliens hoped the humans had come to finish the war against their old enemies. The Zorani were weak, yes, but perhaps humanity would at least destroy the rivals who had poisoned their world. The rivals did come. Their ships appeared from the edge of the system, desperate to finish the dying Zorani once and for all. The Zorani trembled, waiting for annihilation. But the humans responded first. They did not hesitate. They did not argue. They did not speak. The human fleet opened fire. The rival armada lasted less than an hour. Weapons unlike anything the Zorani had seen tore through enemy ships with surgical precision. Where the rivals used chaos and fire, the humans used order and silence. Each blast was measured. Each strike perfect. The Zorani watched from the ground as their enemies were erased from the stars. Entire fleets, entire armies, gone, as if they had never existed. When it was over, silence returned to the sky. The humans had won. The Zorani should have celebrated. Their enemies were destroyed. Their survival was assured. But no one cheered. No one felt joy. Because what they had witnessed was not mercy. It was power without limits. After the battle, the human commander gave his only explanation. The threat is removed. This world is secure. Secure. The word echoed like a curse. The Zorani understood now. The humans had not fought for them. They had fought for the territory. The world was no longer Zorani. It was human. Life under humanity became darker. Camps grew larger, resources drained faster, families broken apart. Children were taught human language by force. Zorani tools and weapons were banned. Even their songs and traditions were erased, copied into human archives and then forbidden. One alien cried in despair. They do not just conquer our land. They conquer our memory. The humans, meanwhile, never paused. Never faltered. Every action had purpose. Every silence had weight. The Zorani felt crushed not by cruelty, but by indifference. Across the galaxy, other species began to notice. The SOS signal had traveled farther than the Zorani knew. Some curious races tried to watch. A few even sent ships to investigate. What they saw made them retreat in horror. The broadcasts were impossible to ignore. From hidden channels, alien eyes witnessed the rise of humanity on the Zorani world. Fleets blotting out the sky, machines stripping cities, entire cultures swallowed without hesitation. A single survivor, smuggling out a desperate message, spoke the words that spread like wildfire across the stars. We called for saviors. Instead, we brought nightmares. The story reached worlds far beyond. Some races shivered in fear. Others sharpened their claws, preparing for the day humanity might turn its gaze on them. But none denied what they had seen. Humanity was unlike any other. Where other species sought alliances, humans sought control. Where others hesitated, humans acted. Where others fought with rage, humans fought with precision. And worst of all, the humans never seemed to doubt themselves. Back on the dying Zorani world, despair became the final companion. Families whispered in secret, wondering if their ancestors had cursed them. Elders sat in silence, staring at empty vaults where history once lived. Children grew up under human watch, their songs forgotten, their voices quiet. The Zorani were alive, yes. But they were no longer free. They had been saved only to be absorbed. Preserved only to be conquered. One last transmission left the planet, carried on stolen waves. It was the voice of a young Zorani child, trembling yet clear. To those who hear me, beware. Do not call them. Do not summon them. Humanity does not come to rescue. Humanity comes to claim. The message ended in static. In the human camp, the commander stood on a metal balcony, watching the conquered world below. He spoke quietly to his second officer, his words carried only in human tongue. Step 2 begins. This is not the last world. The officer nodded. No questions. No doubts. The humans had arrived as saviors. They had stayed as rulers. And now, they prepared to move beyond. The Zorani had once feared their enemies. Now, they feared their saviors more. The universe had witnessed the truth. Humanity had been summoned by mistake. And that mistake would echo across the stars forever.